Is Montreal about to make the most controversial trade decision in franchise history? Picture this. The Canadiens, desperate to accelerate their rebuild, are staring down a deal that could either catapult them toward contention or haunt them for the next decade. The centerpiece? Mason Mctavish, Anaheim's 22-year-old powerhouse center, versus David Rybacher, Montreal's crown jewel defensive prospect. And folks, the hockey world is holding its breath. Let me paint you a picture of what's happening behind closed doors in Montreal's front office right now. Kent Hughes is facing the kind of decision that general managers lose sleep over. On one hand, you have Mason Mctavish, a legitimate NHL center who's already proven he can produce at the highest level. On the other, you have David Rybacher, the 5th overall pick who represents everything Montreal hopes to build their blue line around for the next 15 years. This isn't just any ordinary trade rumor circulating through the hockey grapevine. This is Pat Verbeek, Anaheim's no-nonsense general manager, drawing a line in the sand and essentially saying, "You want our young star? Here's exactly what it's going to cost you." And that cost is steep, arguably steeper than what most teams would be willing to pay. Mason Mctavish isn't your typical 22-year-old center, still finding his way in the league. This kid is built like a truck at 6'2" and 220 pounds, combining old-school power forward grit with modern offensive instincts. Since being drafted 3rd overall in 2021, he's accumulated 140 points in 229 NHL games, including 60 goals that showcase his ability to find the back of the net consistently. But here's what makes those numbers even more impressive. Last season, he put up 52 points in 76 games while primarily playing on Anaheim's third line with limited power play time. Think about that for a moment. A player producing at that rate while not even being featured in his team's top offensive situations. It's the kind of untapped potential that makes general managers start scribbling trade scenarios on napkins during sleepless nights. For Montreal, Mctavish represents the perfect complement to Nick Suzuki, a second-line center who could immediately transform their forward depth and give them the kind of 1-2 punch down the middle that championship teams are built around. But here's where this story takes a dramatic turn. Anaheim isn't interested in just any package of Mctavish. They want David Rybacher, and they want him specifically because he represents exactly what they're missing, a right-handed defenseman with top-pair potential who can step into their lineup immediately and anchor their blue line for years to come. Rybacher isn't just another prospect in Montreal's system. He's a cornerstone of their defensive rebuild, the player they envision quarterbacking their power play and eating up massive minutes against opposing teams' top lines. At just 20 years old, he's already shown the kind of hockey IQ and two-way ability that translates to success at the NHL level. Trading him away will be like selling your house to buy a car. You might get something valuable, but you're creating a massive hole in an area where you desperately need stability. The hockey analytics community is split down the middle on this potential deal. The pro-Mctavish camp argues that proven NHL production trumps prospect potential every single time. They point to countless examples of highly drafted defensemen who never quite lived up to expectations, while highlighting Mctavish's already established track record of success at hockey's highest level. These voices suggest that Montreal should strike while the iron is hot and acquire a player who can contribute immediately to their playoff push. The pro-Rybacher faction tells a completely different story. They see a franchise that's finally committed to doing their rebuild the right way, building from the back end out and developing elite talent through their system. Trading away your best defensive prospect for a forward, no matter how talented, goes against every modern rebuilding philosophy and can set the organization back years in their quest to build sustainable success. Adding another layer of complexity to the situation is the timeline factor. Mctavish is NHL ready right now and could slot into Montreal's lineup tomorrow, potentially transforming their offensive depth for the season and beyond. Rybacher, while incredibly promising, still needs time to develop and adjust to North American hockey. For a Canadiens organization feeling pressure to show progress to their passionate fan base, the allure of immediate impact versus long-term potential creates an almost impossible decision. The financial implications can't be ignored either. Mctavish is entering the prime years of his career and will command significant money on his next contract. Rybacher, as a prospect, represents cost-controlled talent that could provide elite production at a fraction of the price. In a salary cap league where every dollar matters, these considerations often tip the scales in major trade decisions. What makes this rumor even more intriguing is Pat Verbeek's reputation as a shrewd negotiator who doesn't engage in public trade discussions unless he's serious about making a deal happen. This isn't some agent-driven speculation or media-manufactured controversy. This appears to be legitimate interest from both sides, with specific parameters already established. The pressure on Kent Hughes is immense. Montreal's fan base is hungry for progress after years of disappointment, and acquiring a proven young center like Mctavish would signal aggressive intent to compete sooner rather than later. But sacrificing Rybacher could mortgage the future for short-term gains, exactly the kind of decision that haunts franchises for decades. As this story continues to develop, one thing is crystal clear. Whatever decision Montreal makes will define Kent Hughes' tenure as general manager and potentially alter the trajectory of the franchise for years to come. The hockey world is watching, the fans are debating, and somewhere in Montreal, the most important decision in recent team history is waiting to be made. Will the Canadiens pull the trigger on this blockbuster deal, or will they hold firm to their rebuild philosophy? The answer could reshape both franchises' futures. What do you think Montreal should do? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and smash that like button if you want to see more breaking trade coverage as this story develops.